Hello, scholars. Welcome back to the Kemet Maasai Academy. We are live for PEP Performance Task. Welcome, and I hope you have your book and pencil ready to go. All right, so let me just share the link so others can come on.
Okay, ma'am.
Remember, as you come on, I want you to type good evening, Miss and classmates, or good evening, Miss and fellow scholars, whatever you want to put. Just remember, we have to maintain the same protocol that we would have in the regular classroom. We have to say good evening, good morning, etc. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
All right, so we're waiting on others to join. Let me just share this link. Share. All right. Okay, guys, so we're going to start. We have a PEP performance task that we're going to be at. And so I'm to be sharing the screen so we can look at it. All right, so the first question Are you able to see the question on the screen, Alyssa?
Yes, miss.
Can you read it clearly what it says from where you are?
No, I'm going to try on my
Are you able
tablet.
to
My
read it?
mother's logging in. I'm going to try and
All
log
right,
in
so
on
let
my
me read.
tablet. My mother.
All right, no problem. Okay, so it says mathematics performance task, a play area for school. This task has 4 parts. Use the information given to answer each question. The principal of your school has decided to build a play area for the lower school students. She wants to include a sandbox. She has asked you to help her to make some decisions before she begins the construction. You will have to help her to design the layout for the play area, build a sandbox, and choose a hardware store from which to buy the sand. All right, so just let that marinate. And for an idea of what that is going to look like, so this is the play area with the sandbox. Somewhere in the play area, we have the sandbox for children to play in, right? So we're going to help. So I'm going to read the question one more time. This is the task that we're going to be doing. And for performance task in mathematics for PEP, the skills that you are being tested in, you have a grasp, first of all, of perimeter and area. You also have to have a good grasp of handling money, calculating money, acting, multiplying with money, because you are going to construct something as well as to work out the costs. Cost of material, usually to the object, whatever the object is that you're creating. All right, so I'm going to read that question time. And when you're doing your performance, you have to make sure that carefully. The task has 4 parts. Use the information given to answer each question. The principal of your school has decided to build a play area for the lower school students. She wants to include a sandbox. She has asked you to help her to make some decisions before she begins the construction. You will have to help her to design the layout for the play area, build a sandbox, and choose a hardware store from which to buy the sand. Now, the first part of the question says designing area. So that's part 1, designing the play area. The principal has identified a section of the schoolyard for the play area. It has an area of 120 meters square. She wants to build a rectangular sandbox in the play area. The table below shows the space required for the sandbox. So we are told it's a rectangular sandbox, and the play area also play area has to be 120 meters square. Okay, so persons are saying they can't see the screen, which I am also reading the question. Right? The play area should be 120 square, and the sandbox, if we look at the table, it says the space required for the sandbox is 48 meters square. So remember I told you that when for the PEP Performance Task for mathematics, you must have a good grasp of area and perimeter. So when they say the area of the play area, we're talking all the space on the ground that the play area will cover. Likewise, for the sandbox, the area of the base of the sandbox, 48 meters square. So the entire space that the sandbox will take up on the ground should be 48 meters square. Now, we're on a grid, and we are told that we should draw the outline of the play area and the sandbox. So let me share that part of the question. Use the grid to draw the outline of the play area and the sandbox. Be sure to label the sections for the play area and the sandbox, and be sure to include their measurements. Each square on the grid represents 1 meter square. So here is the grid. That's the grid, with each little box represents 1 meter square. So that's 1 meter across and 1 meter down for each box. Now, because they want us option to choose the dimensions of the play area as well as the dimension of the sandbox, all telling us that the requirements, the maximum space each will take up. But we can decide the dimensions because, for example, for the play area, we know that they want it to be 120 meters square. There are several pairs of numbers that can give us 120 meters square. So we have to think, what are the possible pairs of numbers that we multiply them, we get 120. So we have 1 times 100, 2 times 60, 3 times 40, 4 times 30, 5 times 6 times, and the list goes on. There are other options that we can use to give us an area of 120. Just think of all the pairs of factors that multiply to give 120. So we decide, and this is the beauty of PEP, is that you are given options to decide what you're going to use in some cases. And so your answer might be unique to you based on the option that you use. So let's say for the play area, to be realistic, because you don't want to choose measurements that are too narrow, because that would not be realistic for persons to on that area. Right? So the more realistic options might be 5 times 24 or 6 times 20. You know, we wouldn't choose 1 time 120, because if it has 1 meter in width, who can play on that space, right? Or 2 meters. So I think some better options would be 4 meters by 30 meters, 5 by 24 meters, meters by 20 meters. So that's the first thing you're going to draw on your grid. You're going to draw a rectangle with 5 meters by 24 meters for the length, 24 for the width, or 6 for the length, 20 for the width, and so on. As long as they multiply to give 120 meters square. On the inside of that, you're going to draw another rectangle, which represents the sandbox, and put it anywhere you want inside the big rectangle. The sandbox area of the base of the sandbox must be 48 meters square. So again, you have the option to choose which pairs of numbers multiply to give 48. 1 times 48, 2 times 3 times 16, 4 times 12, 6 times 8. Again, you're going to choose realistic ones. The 1 times 48 wouldn't have much space in terms of width for anybody to sit in a sandbox, or 2 times 24. So choose the best option you think and let it be realistic. So maybe the 3 by 16, 4 by 12, or the 6 by 8. So those would be the dimensions for the smaller box that represent the base of the sandbox. And that's for part 1. So create that, what we would draw. A large rectangle that multiply to give 120, and a smaller rectangle on the inside with dimensions would multiply to give 48. Now part 2 says designing the sandbox. All right, so let us decide, for the purpose of this class, let us decide the measurements that we choose. So for the play area, I'm going to choose the 40. Those are my measurements. Remember, you would have chosen another pair, and your calculations are going to be based on the pair that you choose. For the sandbox, I'm going to choose 6 by 8. 6 meters wide, 8 meters long. Actually, if I choose a 6 by 8, that would not fit into the 4 by 30. So I'm going to choose the 4 by 12 instead. So these are the kinds of things you have to think about based on your options, right? So if I had a grid 4 by 30, I could not fit a 6 by 8 box into that. But I can fit a 4 by 12 box. All right. So part 2, designing the sandbox. The principal wants to make sure that the students have enough sand to play in. Based on her research, she found out the following. The sand in the box should be 25 centimeters deep. So that would be the height of the sand in the box. And the distance between the top of the sandbox and the top of the sand, as shown in the diagram, should be between 5 centimeters and 10 centimeters. So I'm going to show you now the diagram that's bring to. So here we have the sand in the box, and the height of the sand itself should be 25 centimeters. But then you have a choice as to how high the box is going to be above the sun. Once it's between 5 to 10 centimeters, you're good. That's within the range that they want. So you can choose for it to be 5 centimeters more than the sun, 6 centimeters, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's the range of choices you have. All right, so they want you to tell them now for part A, what is the height of your sandbox? All right, now I'm going to choose the maximum height, which is 10. So since the sand itself is 25 centimeters, and I'm going to make the height of the box above the sand be 10 centimeters. So in all, the height of the box would be the 25 centimeters for the sun and the 10 centimeters higher than the sun. So in all, my height is 35 centimeters. Now, part B says, what is the height of your sandbox written in meters and show you're working? So we have 35 centimeters. They want that to be converted to meters. So since 100 centimeters make a meter, to change from centimeters to meters, we're going to divide by 100 and we're going to get 0.35 meters. And that would be the height of the sandbox. Part C says, based on your design in part 1 and the information in part 2A and 2B above, fill in the missing measurements in meters on the diagram of the sandbox below. So remember, I had chosen, for my sandbox, I had chosen 4 meters in width and 12 meters in length. And I just worked out that the height is going to be 0.35 meters. So I would put in those measurements where you see they have the line. So the longest part on the bottom, that would be the length. So I would put in 12 meters there. And the width, I would put 4 meters. And the height of the box would be 0.35 meters. And that would complete part 2. Part 3, getting sand for the sandbox. How much sand in meters cubed will be needed for the sandbox? So how much sand would fill the box? Remember, the sand itself is 0.25 centimeters, right? Because the extra height of 10 centimeters was for the space above the sand. So the sand itself would be the 0.25 times 4 times 12. Do you have any questions so far? So that gives us 12 meters. That is the volume of the sand in the box. Persons would have been tempted to use the 0.35 that we just worked out as the height of the box. But remember, the full height of the box is not the full height of the sand. Bear that in mind. The full height is not the full height of the sand, because the height of the box contains an extra 10 centimeters that is just space. And itself goes up to 25 centimeters or 0.25 meters. So the volume of the sand, bear in mind, volume is length times width times. So based on the dimensions that I chose for my sandbox, it's the 4 meters times the 12 meters times the 0.25, which is the height. 0.25 meters. Let's say you had chosen 3 by 16 as your sandbox. So it would be the meters times 16 meters times the 0.25. And so on. So it all depends on your dimensions that you choose. All right, so now we're going to part 3B. A bag of sand contains 0.5 meters cubed of sand. How many bags of sand will you need to buy for Sandbox? All right, so they're saying each bag of sand contains 0.5 meters cubed. And remember, we need 12 meters cubed of sand. And each bag contains 0.5 meters cubed. So the total number of bags that we need to buy would be the 12 divided by 0.5, and that's 24 bags of sand. Based on the dimensions that I chose, I would need 24 bags of sand. Let's say you had chosen 3 by 16. Let's see if it's the same number of bags you would need. So it would be the 3 times 16 times 5. That would all give 12. Let's see if the 6 by 8 times the 0.25, also 12. Because remember, these were factors of the 48. So whichever pair you chose, in this case, the base would have worked up to 48, and the height of the sand is the same 0.25. So we need 24 bags of sand. So do you have any questions so far? Let me see if any questions are coming up in the chat. All right, persons are not seen well. As we go along, scholars, we're going to improve on the quality, definitely, the broadcast, the quality of especially of the presentation, so you can see the questions better. I'm also reading it to you, so I'm hoping that from what you can see and then what I am reading for you, you will be able to make out, put everything together. All right, and some persons are having internet problems. So remember, you can always find back the video and watch it later. Even though we're live now, the video will exist afterwards. You can always go on the channel and watch the video over. Now we're going to go to part 4. So I'm going to share that question. I'm going to read it to you as well. Okay, part 4. So part 4 says, buying sand for the sandbox. There are 2 questions in this part, 4A and 4B. Read each carefully, then choose one. Do only one question. And they have printed that one. It's capitalized, it's bold, and it's underlined. And this is for you scholars to know that they only want one of the choices. If you do 2, you will only get marks for the first one that you do. So don't think that, oh, I'm going to do 2 and get extra marks. That's not how it works. You are also being tested on your ability to follow instructions, to read instructions carefully and to follow instructions. And if they only ask for one, you will not get extra marks. If you waste your time and do two, you're actually taking away from the quality of the one that you should be doing, because you're splitting the time into two and one is unnecessary, and you will not get the marks for it. For the purpose of this lesson, though, of course, we are going to work both of them, just so you see what you would have done depending on which one you chose. So we're going to work 4A and 4B, but just bear in mind the instruction says there are two questions in this part, 4A and 4B. Read each one carefully, then choose one and do only one question. So 4A says, there are two hardware stores that sell sand by the bag. The principal needs to decide which store to buy the sand from. The price and delivery costs are given in the table below. So we have two hardware stores. We have Kumar's Hardware and Lumber, and we have Construction One Stop Hardware. Let's look at the options. If we buy from Kumar's Hardware and Lumber, the sand is $400 per bag, and the delivery cost is $5,000. If we're buying from Construction One Stop Hardware, the sand is $500 per bag if you buy less than 30 bags, and $450 per bag if you buy 30 or more bags, and their delivery cost is $3,000. Let me double check those figures. Okay, so 5,000 for Kumar's delivery, 3,000 for construction. So let's work out the two options and see which one is the better one. So we said we needed 24 bags of sand. So if it's $400 per bag at Kumar's, and we need 24 bags, so 24 times 4, that's 24 times 400, $9,600. That's for the sand. And we're going to add the 5,000 delivery. So that's $14,600 if we buy it from Kumar. For the Construction One Stop Hardware, we're buying 24 bags, and they said that if we're buying less than 30 bags, it's $500 per bag. So it will be the 500 times 24, which is 12,000, and the 3,000 for delivery. So that's $15,000 if we buy it from Construction One Stop. So by comparison, we get a slightly better deal from Kumar. We're going to be saving $400 if we buy from Kumar, right? So that can buy something that we can use that $400 buy something else that we need. But if we had, let's say we had wanted more than, or we had wanted 30 bags, we would get it for $450, and 450 times 30 is $13,500. Plus the 3,000 would be $16,500 at construction. The 30 bags times 400 would be 12,000 plus the 5,000, so it would be 17,000. So you would get a better deal at construction if you're buying more than 30 bags. because of that discount that they're offering if you're buying more than 30 bags. But generally speaking, if you're buying less than 30 bags, because the delivery is $2,000 less, more than likely you're going to end up paying less. All right. So our answer is we're going with Kumar's hardware. We're saving $400. Now the final part of this task is part 4B. Oh my, a lot of persons are having internet problem. I'm so sorry about that, guys, but remember, you can always watch the video again. You can always find the video and watch it as many times as you need to. Okay? We all know the internet can be very unstable sometimes. All right, so let's look at 4B. Now, 4B is another option, is another question that wants you to choose the best option. And again, there are two hardware stores that sell sand in cubic meters. The principal needs to decide which store to buy the sand from. The price and delivery costs are given in the table below. All right. So let's see now. At Bear Sand Hardware, they sell $800 per meter cube, and their delivery is $5,000. At Sand Galore Hardware, $1,000 per meter cube if less than 15 meters cube of sand is purchased, and $900 per meter cube if 15 meters cube of or more of sand is purchased. All right, so, and then their delivery is $3,000. So remember, for the option that we chose for the sake of this example, remember the height of the sand times the width of the sand times the length. So the 0.25 times 4 times 12. So we needed 12 meters cube, right? We needed 12 meters cube of sand. So now we need to find out the cost. So for bare sand hardware is $800 per meter cube. So the $800 times the 12. Again, that is 9,600, and their delivery is 5,000. So that's 14,600, just like Kumar's. And for Sand Galore Hardware, because we only need 12 meters, we have to, it's gonna cost us $1,000 for each meter cube. If we were buying more than 15 or more, we would get a discount of $100 per meter cube. But we only need 12, so the cost is going to be the 12 times 1,000, which is the 12,000, plus the 300 delivery, so that's 15,000 again. So we get the same answers that we got. So they set it up so that whichever one you chose, you would end up with the same answer. So in this case, we would have to say, we would advise the principal to go with bare sand hardware because it's $14,600 compared to the $15,000 from Sand Galore hardware. And you know, we always want to go with the cheaper one because it will save us money. We can use that money for something else. So it's logical that you would go with the cheaper. So remember, let me remind you that you were told to choose one, and this is very important. This is up here, because if you had done both, you would only get points for the first one, and you would have wasted a lot of time working something that has no value to you in terms of marks. So that completes the performance task. I want you to bear in mind that, as I mentioned, you must have a firm grasp of perimeter, and you must have a firm grasp of area and calculating the cost. So when they say things like per bag or each bag, that kind of thing, and also volume. So remember volume. So let's revise the difference between perimeter, area, and volume. So when they mention perimeter, and usually you're going to be working with different polygons, so shapes like the triangle, the rectangle, the square, trapezium, those kinds of shapes. So those are polygons, straight sides, flat. However, we might bring in some dimensions in terms of volume. So let's start with perimeter. So the perimeter is talking about the distance on the outside of the shape. The outside of the shape. Perimeter has nothing to do with the inside of the figure. So it's like, so when you mention things like borders and fences around something, a wooden gate all the way around something, that would be perimeter. Perimeter, the unit for perimeter is centimeter or meter or kilometer. Those are units of length. For area now, we're talking about the space on the inside of the polygon or the circle or whatever shape it is. All of the space that is covered on the ground, the floor, the tile space, those kinds of things, that would be area. So whereas perimeter is a one-dimensional measurement, area is a two-dimensional measurement. And that is why the unit for area is centimeter square or meter square or kilometer square, because you're multiplying one unit by the other unit. The length has its unit and the width has its unit. So when you multiply them, you're going to get square units. So area is measured in square units. Now, when we talk about volume, now we're introducing another dimension, which is height. So volume is the area of the base times the height. Whatever the base is, the area of whether it's a rectangular base, triangular base, trapezoid base, circular base. The volume is the area of the base multiplied by the height. So volume, so since area was two-dimensional and the unit for area is square units, if we're adding another dimension to it for volume, so the unit for volume then is going to be cube units. So centimeter cube, meter cube, kilometer cube, and so on, if we're using metric, right? So that kind of thing you have to bear in mind. Another thing is that you have to read carefully because there are catches. For example, I was dwelling a while ago on the catch that you were to only do one of the questions in question 4, one of the parts. Another catch in this performance task was that the space above the sun that made a difference. The sun did not go all the way up to the top of the box. The sun came up to 25 centimeters, and then there was a space above it, which you were given the option in terms of the height of that space. All they told you was it has to be between 5 centimeters and 10 centimeters. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 would have been all right from 5 to 10. So you would add that now to the 25 for the whole height of the box. But the sand itself is 25 centimeters high. Another catch in this question is that some measurements are given in centimeters and some are given in meters. You can't multiply centimeters by meters. You have to convert. So that they gave us the height of the sand in centimeters, but we had the width and the length in meters. So if you had gone and multiplied the 4 by the 12 by 25, you would have gotten the wrong answer. So you first had to convert the 25 centimeters to meters, which is 0.2 meters, and then you multiply. So that's another catch, right? And of course, they're going to be looking for things like your ability to use up the grid and to label your grid. Remember, the question asked you to put in the dimensions. So on that grid, you had to label the length of the play area and the width of the play area. And inside the play area where the sandbox is, you have to label the rectangular base of the sandbox, put in the length that you chose and the width that you chose. Persons are asking if I'm going to go live tomorrow. Yes, absolutely yes. For the PEP classes, we are going to go live every weekday. Let me just read the schedule for you, for those who are not yet familiar with the schedule. So for the PEP students, the schedule is Monday evening, and these are all 7 to 8 classes. From Monday to Thursday is 7 to 8. On Friday is a different time. So Monday to Thursday, 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m. On Monday, it's performance task. Tuesday, ability test. Wednesday, performance task. Thursday, problem solving. And Friday from 4:30 to 6, the curriculum-based tests. Let me read those again, write them down, because I want you to be able to attend all these classes and take advantage so you can be proficient in all the areas. So from Monday to Thursday is 7 to 8 p.m. And on Monday, doing the performance task. Tuesday, the ability tests. Wednesday, performance task again, because some students really struggle with the performance task. So we want to do more practice in that. Thursday is problem solving, which is another area that students really struggle with. I'm going to hold your hand and guide step by step through worded problems until you master them, until you have the ability to just, any way they come at you, you are going to be able to solve those problems. And remember, the answer is always in the question. So you just have to break it down and look for clues, and you will absolutely get your answer. On Friday, 4:30 to 6 p.m., we're going to do the curriculum-based tests. All right, so make sure you have those written down and you're not going to miss any class. And remember, fire out your questions. If I'm going through something and you're not getting it, I want you to drop a line in the chat and let me know that you want me to go over that point, and I'll gladly do it. As well as even after the broadcast, if you're watching it over and you're not getting something, you have a question again, just drop a line in the comments and I will check back and answer your question. So it doesn't matter when you're watching it, whether you're on the live or you're watching it after the live. Post your questions, any question, anything you're not getting based on what we have done. Ask your questions. That's the reason why I am here, to answer your questions. And try to attend as many of the classes as possible so you can get the best benefit from it. All right, so we can wrap it up here, and I will see you tomorrow evening, same time, same place. Come with your books, your pencils, and your questions. For those who have not yet subscribed, I would encourage you to do so and to click that notification bell, because then you will be notified as soon as I go live. You will get that notification. You don't have to be sitting there wondering when is Miss going to go live. Right, so click the bell and you will be notified. Share the video and tell your friends and your cousins and your neighbors and your classmates so they too can tune in and benefit. Until tomorrow, my scholars, take care